today I have on board Lloyd here. So Lloyd, why don't you quickly introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about what your company does?
Yeah. So my name is Lloyd, for everyone here who doesn't know me or is hearing about me for the first time. Really excited to be on this podcast. So I run a consulting company called LWY Consulting. And what we do is we help early stage B2B entrepreneurs scale their company. So this can be if you're running a SaaS company, it can be running a consultancy or an agency. But typically I'm working with like earlier stage companies that are below $10,000 per month in recurring revenue. And I help them scale up primarily using organic growth strategies. So that's in essence what I do. And like the goal, I think, is pretty clear. I want to help them scale from wherever they are, whether that be like pre-revenue, because I work with a lot of pre-revenue companies, and get them to that 10K mark, which oftentimes we're looking to get to, or that 10K a month company that wants to break that 100K barrier. Every company has their own growth curve. They have their own story. They have their own trajectory, but being able to work with the founders directly to come up with a customized solution and roadmap for them so that they can break through their biggest obstacles and get to the other side. That's what I do. That's what I love to do.
Right, that's awesome. So I was looking through your offerings, and you have a productized or a semi-productized offering as well called Road to 10K. So what's that about? I think you have like a couple of different offerings. Would love to hear more about those.
Yeah. So do you want to hear more about why I structured it the way that I did, or what they each do?
Start with the why, as Simon Sinek says. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, the structuring of the program, the reason why is because I began doing primarily implementation services. So this is like way back when I first started. And implementation services were good because it helped me like generate massive results for my customers, because I was literally on the front lines helping them build their sales process and doing everything by hand. But what I didn't like about it was that I couldn't have that many customers when I was doing it like that. There's only so much people you can bring into your funnel and so many people you can help if you're literally doing everything for them. Like at that time, I was only working with 2 or 3 customers. And I decided that model didn't work for me, and I wanted to have something that was a little bit more scalable. So I transitioned to doing one-on-one consulting, which allowed me to have way more customers, and I could still add a lot of value to them. I couldn't like actually do the work for them, but I could guide them on the path almost like a virtual head of growth or a virtual head of sales. These companies obviously can't afford their own head of sales at their early stage. So it made a lot of sense. And then what I realized was, although I was able to get a lot of customers for that offering, and it was a fairly scalable offering in that I could deal with 10, 15, 20 one-on-one customers per month, there was a big segment in the market that were just priced out, because inevitably when they're paying me for my time and I'm giving them like an ample amount of time, like my pricing was charged at like $1,500 per month and up. I would have all of these people that would come to me, and they're early in their business process, because that's pretty much who I sell to. And you could imagine a lot of people who are in their early days can't afford paying $1,500 per month. That was the thing that I saw over and over and over again. And I felt frustrated because they're the people that I know I can help.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't help them given their stage, which really sucked, both in terms of me not being able to generate more income, but also in terms of me not being able to make an impact for them in the way that I wanted to. So the beginning of my thought process of why don't I release some sort of, offering, which is more like group coaching format, came from how do I get something that can still add the most value to these more, early stage companies, even for my standards, like super early stage companies, without making them spend money that they just frankly didn't have. So that's when I decided to pretty much take the best of my one-on-one consulting, my flagship one-on-one offer, but get rid of the stuff that frankly the really early stage customers didn't need, because my one-on-one stuff is more robust. There's more stuff in it, but a lot of that stuff is like not needed if you're just starting out. Frankly, it's stuff that you might only need once you hit $15,000, $25,000 per month. So I removed that. I removed the one-on-one stuff because that's the least, that's the most intensive and expensive stuff for me. I replaced it with more group coaching so that it's more scalable. And I packaged it up more as like a one-time fee than it was a retainer. So that ended up being like a very good decision, because now I'm able to serve like a different side of the market that traditionally wasn't able to afford my stuff, but now I could actually help them at a larger scale. And like right now I have significantly more customers on the group coaching than I do on the one-on-one. because it's way more affordable. The one-on-one stuff is still like great because it gives me recurring revenue every month. But the group coaching stuff, I feel like it allows me to create more impact. And the upside as well is that people who do really well with the group coaching, with that R10K accelerator, as you mentioned, if they're doing great, they can just move up to one-on-one. It's almost like they're graduating into a more robust program. So that was my thought process as to why I moved to having 2 offerings instead of just one. I don't really plan on adding a third, but as of right now, like I'm very happy with the way that I've structured it because it's allowing me to help people at different price points, at different stages in their business.
Yeah, in that sense, it's a funnel into your one-to-one coaching as well, right? Because the people who
Exactly.
do, they just graduate, as you mentioned, right? Cool.
Yeah.
So I think you guys, I think you can really help a lot more people with this. And yeah, I get the podcast. It's really good. I think. Cool. So in terms of your ideal customers, you mentioned you work with pre-revenue founders. You mentioned you work with people who are at 10K MRR or whatever that number might be. So what are the different segments of the like market you serve? Is it only SaaS or is it like other agencies as well, big enterprises? What's that makeup look like in a bit more detail, and how do you sort of get them on board? What's your process?
It's primarily B2B companies that sell high ticket. So
Okay.
if you're in B2B and you're selling something that's like reasonably expensive, not physical products, like I don't deal with, like if you're selling like physical computers or whatnot, can't really help you there. But if you're selling something primarily online and it is B2B oriented and it's like reasonably expensive, then that's kind of my forte. That's why it ends up being primarily SaaS companies, consultancies, and agencies, because they primarily sell online and their services can be quite expensive. Obviously with SaaS, there's a huge range. There's some like very inexpensive SaaSes, but I like to focus on more enterprise SaaS or expensive SaaS, which has like a larger MR.
And how do you sort of get in touch with them? What's your customer acquisition process look like?
Oh man, it's like very robust. There's a lot of different things going on at the same time. So LinkedIn is a big thing. On LinkedIn, you can both use inbound and outbound. So like having a certain volume of direct messages go out every single day is like a very consistent way of generating your lead flow. I mean, the copywriting and the list building, there's obviously a lot more detail that goes into it. I'm not just like messaging random people. So there is a lot of strategy to it, which is why I help my customers. It's literally like those are the granular details that I like to help them explore and unpack. But at a high level, like LinkedIn for sure, outbound, and then LinkedIn content's really good too because LinkedIn has such a great organic reach. More than almost any other social media channel, it has the best organic reach, where people that are not necessarily in your first degree network, they can still see your posts if you promote it the right way, even without spending money on ads. Facebook or Instagram doesn't really have those things anymore. If you're posting, you're generally not going to have that many people that are not in your network see. That being said, I do use Facebook a lot as well. Facebook is a bigger lead generator for me actually right now than LinkedIn, which is surprising, especially because I do so much B2B stuff, but it's because Facebook communities is really amazing. Facebook is investing so much into Facebook communities now, groups and whatnot. So I both market myself in other groups, but I also own my own group. And that is a big part of my overall growth strategy. I do some email as well, but to me, like email, although it gets results, it's just like more energy to get a demo in compared to the other channels. So I pretty much have that like right at the back burner, and like referrals and word of mouth as well. So those are some of the different things that I have going on to generate clientele. And I'm a big content person. So a big part of what I do across every channel is content. And you'll see me leveraging content on LinkedIn, on email, on Facebook, because I don't believe in doing pure cold outreach. Pure cold outreach is pretty hard. Like you can do it, but the conversion rate's not amazing. Whereas augmented outreach or like warm outreach even is better, meaning like you're leveraging content somewhere in that customer's, that prospect's experience with you.
So let's go deeper into each. Let's start with LinkedIn.
Sure.
Like how many messages do you send per day? How do you decide who to send to? Do you boost with these LinkedIn boosting pods, engagement
Sure.
stuff and all
Sure.
that?
I spend no money on LinkedIn. Well, I spend money on tools. So like I have Sales Navigator for list building, and then I use a tool to help me send out more volume. Because in terms of volume, like I need to send out at least 80 per day
Okay.
for it to. I mean, you can get away with less, but if you want to maximize your results, 80 net new connection requests per day is going to be best. My conversion rates that I'm looking for is around like 35 to 40% acceptance rate.
Mm-hmm.
It can be lower if your industry that you're selling to is just not on LinkedIn as much. So if you're selling to, I don't know, like dentists or whatever, like you can't really expect a 40% acceptance rate. They're just not on their computers as much.
Yeah.
But you can look at, especially like, SaaS business owners, SaaS type people, they'll be definitely on LinkedIn. Agency owners will be on LinkedIn. Like people in the financial industry will be on LinkedIn. Like lawyers, accountants, they'll all be on LinkedIn. And then like the more blue collar, I think the less likely you'll be on. Interestingly enough though, e-commerce people don't tend to be on LinkedIn as much, which I found weird because I thought they would be, but not as much e-commerce people. Interesting. But yeah, like 80 or so a day. And you want to have around like 3 to 4 touch points because you need to have persistence with LinkedIn.
What
If someone
does that mean? Like you can't really touch them if they don't accept your connection.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
So that's why the first message matters. The connection message matters the most, because if they don't look at your connection message and accept, you can't message them anymore, which is like not good, of course. So the key to making your welcome message really sharp is to not sell. That's a mistake that most people make. They just try to like pitch on their first message. Like they don't know who you are. And social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, people aren't accustomed to being sold to on those platforms. Email, sure. Like people are used to getting pitched on email now. So it's just like whatever. But if someone just gets pitched on LinkedIn and they don't know who you are, they're going to be like offended. That's stupid. Why are you doing this? Like for me, I never accept any requests that in the first message, they're already trying to sell me. Generally, I don't like to be sold on LinkedIn at all, right? There's a way to do it in a very non-salesy way. Like I always talk about how can you, in a conversational way, generate the demo, generate the meeting so that you're not hard selling, because hard selling is that's something from the past. Yeah. Right. You don't want to hard sell anymore. It's all about conversational selling now.
Yeah. And I think that's a switch that a lot of salespeople haven't made yet. It's just ingrained in their training and ingrained in their philosophy.
I can tell you why. It's because like we're so used to selling on email, and email is all about transactional selling.
Yeah.
And it's not because people refuse to have dialogue or are fundamentally against it, but it's just the nature of email. With email, you send an email and the other person might see it and respond like 8 hours later.
Yeah.
And then maybe they respond and you respond 8 hours after that. So that's not a cohesive conversation. There's too many gaps. So if you want to have a conversation on email, it's almost impossible. No one does it. Yeah. So instead, what people do is they'll be like, you know what? I'm not going to try to have a conversation or a dialogue in email. I'm just going to have like one email which contains all my points, and I'm just going to get them to immediately commit to a call.
Right.
So that's almost how email has to work, because that's just the nature of how people communicate on that channel. But the downside is that if you're sending someone who doesn't know who you are an entire pitch, the conversion rate is going to be low. The example that I'll give you is, let's say you go to a networking event and you just go up to some random person that you don't know and you say like, hey, my name is this, here's what I do. Do you want to jump on a phone call with me later?
Of course not.
Like when you do that at a networking event, it sounds ridiculous, right? Yeah. When you do that at a networking event, it sounds ridiculous, but that's what you're doing on email, right? So the reason why Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn work is because you don't need to do that. Because you can have a chit chat, you can have a dialogue. It's instant messaging. It's like Slack or MSN way back in the day for people who remember the 90s. You can have a dialogue, you can have a back and forth. So I don't actually pitch anything until I chit chat a little bit and understand, do they even have the problems that I have? And the benefit here is like, they're going to feel more comfortable with agreeing with me to join a meeting if and when I position it, because I've had a bit of a back and forth dialogue with them. But also for me as a sales rep, it's better because I don't want to pitch someone on a phone call and have them join and accept and end up being a bad call because they weren't even qualified. So you can disqualify and qualify in the DMs instead. So it ends up saving you time and it makes them more comfortable jumping on a phone call. The only thing is that this is going to require more skill. And if you don't know how to handle the conversations, then you can't get into a place where they want to talk to you. And that's why, once again, I consult. because I consult people on how they can manage their entire LinkedIn process from the lead generation, the list building, the conversations to the booking, everything. Make it one cohesive process that they can actually have the skill to execute on. And that way, when you're really doing this the right way, you can generate 2 to 3 qualified demos every single day.
No, I completely hear you. I completely hear you. And I think I have one more point on this. I think it's also because on LinkedIn, you know, this is a person, right? You have the photo, you have the profile, you have the background, you can go browse. But on email, you have no profile in that sense, right? The best you can have is a picture. Like, I know this person has a face, but I don't know what school he went to. I don't know like his about section in that sense, right? You can put some stuff on signature, but it doesn't come across in the same way. So yeah, I think LinkedIn is more of a, like, it is a social network, but that's why it's more conducive to conversational selling, as you were mentioning.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, LinkedIn is great.
Yeah, in terms of Facebook, you said Facebook worked better for you. Let's go deep into that.
Yeah, so Facebook is interesting. Like if you look at LinkedIn is on in my strategy anyways, more of an outbound strategy where I like proactively find people and then I go after them. And it works because LinkedIn has preset filters and you can like find specific people. Facebook doesn't really have that unless you're paying for it. I love organic growth, right? So with Facebook instead, what I do is I try to find communities. So Facebook groups are all the rage now. Facebook literally spent a couple $1 million to buy a Super Bowl ad this year just to promote Facebook groups, which they've never done before. So you know they care about bringing it up. The cool thing about communities is that they are generally going to be for a specific type of topic. So there's communities just for SaaS, there's communities just for consulting, there's communities just for agency, there's communities just for high ticket sales and B2B. Mm-hmm. So like if you know who your audience is, and that's what matters, like at the end of the day, no matter what channel you're utilizing, you have to know who you're selling to.
Right.
On LinkedIn, on Facebook, it's no different. But once you find the appropriate communities that on Facebook are a good fit for you and contain your audience, what you do is you go in and you share helpful content, which is what I do. Like I share very robust, helpful content. The thing is, everyone there is sharing content, especially if you're joining a group with a couple thousand members, which is my recommendation. You want to join a relatively big enough group. If you join a small group, it's not going to make a big difference for you. But you join a big enough group, a lot of people are sharing content. If you want to stand out from the pack of people who are sharing content, you just got to post the best content out there. And to share the best content, it has to be long form. It can't be just like a question or whatnot. You definitely don't want to just like cold pitch people on that group either. Like I know of some people who just scrape the group and find the emails and email them, or they'll just, you know, every single day add 40 or 50 people of those people in the group cold and just like straight up harass them and message them. It doesn't work. If it does work, it's at a very low conversion rate and you risk getting banned. Whereas if you know how to write very compelling content, which gets hundreds of people to engage and like and comment and share, what you get to do is pretty much just send them a friend request, or maybe they'll even send you a friend request because that happens quite a lot. You can engage with the people who commented and liked in the post because you know they enjoyed your thought process. Right. And that's how you actually get people to be pre-qualified and build your warm outbound strategy. That's the difference. LinkedIn, it's cold outbound. You're going after people who don't know who you are. With Facebook, you warm them up with content and then you go after them. It's a warm outbound strategy. And a lot of the times you'll have hot leads coming too, because like every single day, I'll usually have a couple of people that just DM me and saying like, hey, I loved your post. Had a question about this. Can I jump on a Zoom call with you? Those are like the easiest people to close because they already want to talk to you. You inverse the power balance because normally if you're the entrepreneur or the sales rep, you're usually the one who's begging for people's time.
Yeah.
Like, please give me time. Please jump on a phone call with me. Whereas for me, I'd rather have them come to me. I'd rather be the one who says, you know what, like I have to check my calendar.
Yeah.
Like I'll see if I have time to make it, because then they want it. And that power balance is much better. Like I would much prefer to be the one who people are looking to for help than the one who's trying to ask people to come on and spend time with me. Because that's already setting myself up for failure. So Facebook is a little bit of an inverse strategy. I would say for early stage entrepreneurs who know their audience can be found on Facebook, which is like most entrepreneurs, because who's not on Facebook these days, like joining other Facebook groups and executing on that is the best way to go. But then for people who are more mature, building your own community is good too. So I do both. Like I use other people's groups as like a launching pad, and then I have my own group, which is more of like a long-term, right? If you think about it, using other people's groups is like a microwave, whereas using your own group is like boiling water.
Right.
And I treat it almost like an email list, because if people are in my group, I can just drip them with content. And then I have like my links and my calls to actions and my webinars and my apply for a strategy session or whatnot, apply for a sales call, apply for a demo in the group that I own. And there's no rules in my group because I can do whatever I want. You can't really promote as hard on other people's groups because you'll get in trouble. Like the admins there will just ban you. So you have to be a bit careful, but once they're on your group, you can do whatever you want. So yeah, like I would say the best thing is using other people's groups, sharing content, and then getting people to just over DM, agree to a phone call. So the DMing process is very similar to LinkedIn, the way in which you DM. And then everyone that you talk to should be pushed into your group. Your group is like a long-term microwave, as I said, or a long-term, boiling the water in the pot.
No, I think that's a very fair point. And I think those email nurture campaigns that marketers used to do in the, like they still do it, but like at least at an early stage, a Facebook group nurture is much more personal. Again, they can look at your face, they can look at your profile,
yeah,
look at your post in other groups. It's way more context heavy as opposed to just a email nurture campaign where you're just sending, okay, look, here's an ebook that we wrote.
Yeah. Like if you had to pick between one or the other, if you have a very engaged Facebook group and you're constantly sharing content, I think personally that it's more effective than an email list, but just do both.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you can do both, just do both.
Yeah.
The omni-channel.
Or the other.
The only thing is that sometimes people can't do it all because they don't have the time. And that I understand because I also don't have enough time. So if I had to pick, I'd pick a Facebook group, but you can use both. The ideal is to use both.
So in terms of your LinkedIn process, in terms of the LinkedIn plus email personalization, you said that you're more targeted on LinkedIn, right? You figure out this is the person I want to go after, and you sort of message them. How do you personalize? What's that copywriting process look like? How do you figure out what value to?
Yeah. So the initial messages that are automated, I don't actually personalize by hand.
Okay.
But the way that I personalize is by leveraging really precise lists. So I'll build like a list which is 500 people, and it might be, consultancies in California that are under 2 years old with less than 2 employees. The list is really precise. So my welcome message, my first message could be like, hey, congrats for, hitting your 2nd year anniversary, or congrats for just like overcoming your first year in business. I'm like, that's the hardest year. I'm actually coming down to California at some point. We should grab a coffee if I'm down there. Like when you read that sounds pretty personalized, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it's not. I can send that to anyone who's in California that's like a consultancy under 2 years old. Yeah. But when they read it, they're like, damn, this guy really took the time. Yeah. You just have to do that for every list that you go.
So building hyper-segmented lists will help you write a personalized message to that subsegment. Yeah.
Tells me the copy that I utilize.
Got it. That's really clever. That's really clever. So what do your results look like? You said you go for a 30 to 40% connect rate. What's that? How's that actually turning out for you?
It's good. It's good. Like if I'm ramping up LinkedIn at full volume, that'll bring me like 10, 15 grand per month probably. And Facebook does more.
Okay. So how much, like, to put real numbers to it, how much from Facebook, how much from LinkedIn per month?
Probably like 65% Facebook, 35% LinkedIn. If I had to break it down.
And total would be, what's the number of appointments you do per month?
Appointments or revenue? Like what do we, because like demos, like appointments, like 15 to 20 per week easily if I wanted to. Sometimes I just don't want to do all those calls because I have other projects to work on. So like right now I'm actually in a period of not trying to do sales calls. And I'll just have like 5 sales calls come in every week because of referrals. So that's working in the back end as well. But if I really wanted to just jack up my lead generation and wanted to just have like maximum, I could probably do like 25.
Okay, 25 to 30 per week, 65% from Facebook and 35 from LinkedIn. Is that fair?
Yeah, give or take. Yeah.
That makes sense. That's really amazing though. So yeah, next question. So what were some of the mistakes that you made when you started out with the outbound stuff?
The outbound stuff? Oh yeah, I can tell you one. The biggest mistake that I think a lot of people made, including myself, is like in the beginning, you can't try to pitch people. Let me explain what I mean. when you're just like pitching someone, you're pretty much telling someone, hey, like I can help you accomplish X, Y, and Z. Here are the results that I've had in the past with other customers. Believe that I'm amazing, yada, 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 right? You're trying to provide this compelling sales pitch. And it works if you have all of that evidence. It works if you have worked with Nike and Apple and these other companies and you have that traction and your website looks nice and you have a very clear understanding of who your audience is. If you have all of those things, you can do it. In fact, that's what like most big companies do, because at that stage, they know exactly who they're helping and they know exactly what their offering is. But in the beginning, you don't have any of that. You don't have a good website, probably. You don't have that many case studies. Maybe you have none. You're still like uncertain about what your product market fit is. You don't really know who you're helping or how you're helping them. So in the beginning, you can't really do like a traditional sales pitch because you lack the ingredients that make a sales pitch a good sales pitch. So what I did in the beginning was I tried to just like tell people that I was amazing, that I could do all this stuff, but it fell on deaf ears because I didn't have any case studies, testimonials, or website, and I didn't even know if I was going after the right audience. All of those things just didn't lead to good results. And it's something that I see all the time with other entrepreneurs who are just beginning their business. They kind of know what they want to do, but they're not totally sure. And then what they do in their outbound is they try to make themselves seem like the best.
Right.
But they're not. And people can see through it because in your message, it doesn't add up. Things just like don't add up.
Got it.
Outbound, unless you can actually back up your talk with real evidence and you also understand the psychology of your buyers, like without that, it doesn't work. Instead, what people in the beginning should do is they should do a more humble version of outbound, which I call like the customer discovery approach, which is instead of telling someone that you're amazing, that you have this perfect solution that is going to save them a ton of money or get them these amazing results, you just pretty much tell someone, hey, like I'm just beginning my business. I'm building it for the purpose of trying to help people like you solve these problems, but I'm fairly early, so I'm not totally sure if what I'm doing is the right approach. Not trying to sell you or anything, but could I jump on a phone call just to interview you and get some feedback? Because I know that you're an expert in the space and your advice and your opinion would be very helpful for me as I'm building up this business. And people will respond to that because you're asking them for their help. You're flattering them. You're telling them that you're not trying to sell them. And that way their defenses are going to be dropped.
Right.
And in fact, sometimes people just get bored of their everyday life and they want to be part of something that's outside of themselves.
Yeah.
So when you do this, which is like very rare because no one does this, everyone just wants to sell. They'll be like, oh, cool. This person seems like a genuine person. Let's jump on a 30-minute call because I want to help. And the cool thing is you jump on the call and you're genuine. You aren't trying to sell them or anything. You are just asking questions to try to validate your business idea. Because at that stage, you really just have a business idea. You don't have anything else. You probably have a very broken or janky offer. You don't have that many customers. So genuinely, you don't even know if your business works. The questions that you ask are going to be about, what do you think about this business idea? Do these problems even exist for you? And many times when you're in the beginning, the feedback that you're going to get from these people will actually tell you that your business idea is stupid. And that's okay, because what's worse, learning that your business idea is stupid and won't work and just changing, or building the idea, spending a year and thousands of dollars building it, and then going to market and having people tell you that this was a waste of your time, that this was stupid. Like I would much rather in the beginning have someone tell me that this is stupid so I can change and pivot than a year after I try to build the thing. So if people tell you in these feedback interviews that, no, I don't even have these problems, like this isn't relevant to me, and this happens again and again and again and again and again, like all these interviews, people are like, I don't care. Then you either have to change your offering or you have to go to a different audience who would care, because that audience clearly doesn't care. But if they do care, if you ask them those questions and they're like, yeah, that's a problem that I have. Yes, it's annoying. Yes, I wish I could fix it. No, I don't know how to fix it. If they give you all of this positive feedback that this problem that you're trying to solve with your new offering is a problem that needs to be solved, then at the end of the call, you can be like, hey, this is a bit of a coincidence. I didn't intend on bringing this up when I jumped on the phone call with you, but I couldn't help but notice that you're struggling with X, Y, and Z. Right. That's actually what I want to build this business that I'm building right now to help. Like I have a couple ideas that I think if I shared with you, you can overcome those problems. Do you think that would be valuable? At that point, they're going to say yes, because they already told you that they have those problems. It's a totally different approach. Those are how I got my first 5+ customers.
Got it.
Like
And
I
that,
spent a month sending bullshit emails. Sorry for my language. I don't know if you have to censor that, but I spent a month sending emails which were like overly pitchy before I even had an offering. And I had to realize, you know what, this is stupid. I don't have an offering. I don't have any case studies. I don't have any evidence. I don't even know if this idea makes sense.
right.
Why am I attacking the market like this? When I took the other approach, I immediately started booking like 15 calls a week. And then I booked my first customer on that same day, on the first day of me doing this. Because got him to agree to a meeting, jumped on a phone call the same day, and then on that same first call, I mean, that wasn't happening for the month prior. And one of the things that you'll also realize and recognize is that you'll have way less pressure on yourself. That's something too. And people don't really recognize that, especially if you're a new entrepreneur. If you're jumping on a sales call, if you know that it's a sales call, ooh, that's scary. If you're a new entrepreneur, it's like tension. It's like, shit, I got to deliver. I got to be good. I got to tell people my story. It's got to be good. I got to convince someone that I'm doing amazing work. Whereas when I do this, like I'm up front, like, hey, I'm just trying to figure this thing out. Like, I don't even know. And it's a way more chill conversation. They're not going to put pressure on you. You're not putting pressure on them. It's way more casual. If they end up being a good fit, then you can flip the switch and you can transition into a little bit more of like, hey, I think that I can actually help. Yeah. And at that point, they're going to be already down because they like you already.
Right.
Instead of having like this face-off, this confrontation where you're knowing that you want to sell them and he knows you want to sell them. For a new sales rep, that's scary. For a new entrepreneur, that's scary. I've been in sales for 7.5 years. Like, it's not that scary anymore. But in the beginning, I was working for a company. At least I had my team to support me emotionally. But if you're like truly doing sales for the first time alone and you're put into this high pressure situation,
the vibe in these conversations must be completely different from
totally different.
Sales call, right?
Totally
it's
different.
Almost like they're an elder brother trying to help this young guy who's on his way out, right? In that sense. It's a completely
you need to be young. Like, I recommend anyone of any age to do it.
Okay.
It doesn't make a difference of your age, but the outcome is the same. It works. It just works.
Got it. Really cool. So in terms of your own outbound process, are you experimenting with some things to improve it, ramp it up, or what's the?
I think outbound is solved right now. Like the project that I'm working on right now is just like hiring and training some sales reps to do it for me. I don't want to do it myself forever. And it's a bit of a, you got to trust that someone else can do it, hopefully as good as you. In the beginning, they're not going to, because as the founder, you have all these years of experience and you live and breathe your business. And it's an unfair expectation to put on a rep to be able to replicate that. But if you can build a very good training process and you give them enough examples and you teach them your thought process when you have them handle your conversations, then over time, maybe they'll get to 80-90% of what you can do. And that's a win because that frees up all your time. Because when you build up your outbound process to be as robust as what I've built out, the problem is no longer lead generation, it's like time management. And you just can't handle it all. And that's what I'm going through right now. I need to offload some of the work so that I can focus my energy on other things that are more important, frankly. Not to say that prospecting and biz dev isn't important, it is, but like I know that it's a more replaceable skill set than needing to be on a sales call or fulfilling my actual services or building content. Like content, I don't think I can outsource for a while. In sales calls, like eventually I'll outsource it. Fulfillment, like actually being on my coaching calls, I don't know if I can ever outsource that, or at least in the short term, there's no chance. So being intelligent about what things to offload in the right order is important.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling with the hiring part as well myself. I was thinking outbound is hard, hiring is way harder. So that's.
I mean, it's just entrepreneurship is just like a never-ending series of problems. You solve one problem, another problem comes up. But I prefer this problem. Yeah. I prefer having a problem where I have so many leads that I can't handle it, and they need to have someone handle it for me, than to not have enough leads. Right? You solve one problem, another more preferable problem comes up, hopefully.
That's a brilliant definition of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
All right, man. Those are all the questions I have. Thank you for being so candid and thank you for sharing all this valuable stuff. Yeah.
Yes, of course. And if anyone wants to get in contact with me and learn more about how they can implement Facebook or LinkedIn or email strategy or community or anything lead generation related or closing related, sales related, I am on LinkedIn, of course. Just type in Lloyd Yip. There's only one of me. No one has my name.
I'll just
So,
share all your links in
yeah.
the description of
Yeah.
the YouTube video. Yeah, that will
My website and my Facebook group as well. So
absolutely.
Obviously you will be able to see that in the show notes. But yeah, lots of different ways to get in contact and check out some additional content.
All right, man. Thanks for doing this.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Bye.